Let's look at this situation so we get a good feel of how all this works. A new proposal by Uber charges different rates depending on how many miles the ride takes. For the first 10 miles, the cost is a flat fee of $2.77 per mile. After 10 miles, the cost decreases to 65 cents per mile, up to the 60 miles. Afterwards, there's an additional $5 flat fee, and the cost reduces to 60 cents per mile. Write a piecewise function describing the cost as a function of miles driven. All right. So there's different rules for different situations, different parts, and that's what we're going to about to play with and figure out and create a piecewise function. So let's look at the first rule. For the first 10 miles, the cost is a flat fee of $2.77 per mile. Okay, so I'm going to write the first rule down. So what's my first rule? It looks like it's a linear equation because all you're doing is this. Your first 10 miles cost is a flat fee of $2 plus 77 cents per mile. And then I'm going to write x here. What is x? I'm going to declare my variables. So this, again, y is cost in dollars, and x is miles driven. And again, this is for the first 10 miles, so the domain here is going if. Sometimes you write, I've been running commas, but sometimes you see the word if. If first 10 miles, what's true? X is between 0 and 10. Okay. And I'm assuming that it includes 10, it includes 0. I guess if you show up and goes, I don't need your, they'll charge you $2. I'm not sure. And I know this is not the formula. The formula they use is a little more complicated. It's not just based on miles, but I believe also on the time you have the ride and even the location that you're at. So there's different variables, 3 different variables of input, a little more complicated. So there's my first situation. Now, second situation, after 10 miles, again, notice after, not equal to, but after. Once you get that, the cost decreases to 65 cents per mile up to the 60th mile. Okay, so then this gets a little simpler. After 10 miles. So wait a minute. After 10 miles, that means they're still charging for this. So let's look at what happens now. If I'm going to write this down so it reminds myself what I'm doing. If x is and where's it? Gotta read it again. After 10 miles up to the 60th mile. Okay. So do this. So if this is true, what happens? Well, at first, it looks like everything's about to change, but the cost decreases. But it means we already traveled 10 miles. So what was the cost of traveling 10 miles? So that 10 plus 77 cents times 10. Okay, I gotta do this in my head. Move the decimal, 2 plus 7 plus 7. And that's going to be $9.70. So once we travel the 10 miles, the cost is $9.70. So let's see, afterwards, so after 10 miles, the cost decreases to 65 cents per mile up to the 60th mile. So the function now in this situation is, here is the cost so far because I've traveled already 10 miles. 970 plus, at this point, it's 65x. Okay, that's my now cost so far for driving those 10 miles. Great. Afterwards, there's an additional $5 flat fee, and the cost reduces 60 cents per mile. Afterwards, after 60 miles, so I'm going to go over this. After 60, if x is greater than 60, how do we describe this? First of all, let's figure out how much we've driven, how much does it cost to have driven this far. So we got 970 plus 0.65. And now notice what I need to do. I need to be careful here because it's up to the 60th miles, but I have driven 50 miles after this point. So it would be tempting to put 60 here, but it's not. It's really at 50. Because now that I'm using this function, I already got charged for the first 10 miles. Now between 10 and 60 is 50 miles. So to figure out how much it's costing me now to have driven those 60 miles, this 970 already contains that number. I need to now figure out the cost for this additional 50 miles that I've driven. And this time I am going to use my trusted distal calculator and just put it in here. 0.70 plus 0.65 times 50. So I'm hoping that makes sense, that I need to not write 60 down. I need to figure out how many miles additionally I have driven, which is 42 point. And then my function is going to be this. $42.20, because now I'm going beyond 60, plus afterward there's an additional $5 flat fee and contribution. So now you're going, okay, I need to add to that my additional flat fee of $5, and after that is 60 cents per mile. So this comes down to $47.20. A big jump. So no, this is discontinuous. There'll be a jump, it won't be smooth. But now I'm ready to write my equation. And it'll be tempting to write these equations I've written down, but that's not what I'm going to do. I need to take into account the domains that I've been playing with. Okay, and this is important. So I don't know. I have no imagination. Cost. I'm going to go cost. Cost. Let's write the cost function for this. So I'm going to start writing things down. The first equation is straightforward. And again, this is if x is between 0 and 10. Okay. Now here's my second equation. It would be tempting to write, well, I'm going to write that. That's okay. But I'm not going to write that. No. It would be tempting to write that. I'm so tempting that I want to write that. But that's not exactly what I'm going to do. Now, let's think about this. What I want to use is that, okay, I'm beyond 10. I want to put, like if I wanted 11, I want to put 11 there. But you'll notice that if I go, for example, so I go up to the 60th mile, I'm going to enter 60 here. But I have to take into account that this number already contains the first 10 miles. So to account for this, sorry, got that done. So what I'm going to write is this. Enter your, for example, if I enter 60, remember what I did. I wanted to enter 60, but in reality, I would subtracted 10. So therefore, once I start using this function, I got to remember that I have this 970 already accounted for the first 10 miles. So I enter 12, I need to subtract 10 and just get charged for the extra 2 miles beyond the 10. So this is true if x is, this is the one I mentioned. It's that. What about the last equation? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to write 4720 plus, now I got my 0.6, the mileage, but again, when I start using this function, this is only true if what? If I'm beyond 60. Which means that once I start using this function, if I enter 62, 63, I got to take into account that this number has already included the original first 50 miles, or 60 miles, sorry. So I subtract now 65. So if I entered 61, that's the correct thing to use, but I need to subtract, I've only used 1 mile. So 61 minus 60, it's 1 mile into the new situation. And there's my piecewise function that describes this situation.